Congressman Jim Himes joins us, a member of the House Intelligence Committee. He was in today's Michael Cohen hearing. So, Congressman Himes, Lanny Davis says that Cohen himself authored the false line about the Trump Tower Moscow timeline. Is that your understanding as well, that it was Cohen and not, in fact, the president's attorneys?
Well, Anderson, I can't get into the specifics of what has been discussed in now the 2 days in which Michael Cohen has testified before my committee. But remember, that statement that is in question here, the statement that was used by the special counsel to ultimately get Michael Cohen to plead guilty to lying to my committee, was a deep and rich statement with all sorts of dates and people and mentions. And of course, at the time, as you know, Michael Cohen was part of a joint defense agreement.
Right.
And so it's not crazy to infer that a lot of people would have looked at that statement. But obviously, Michael Cohen, when he gave that statement to the Congress, he knew that that date was incorrect.
So any of the president's attorneys who reviewed Cohen's statement, do you or does your committee plan on calling them to testify?
Well, as the chairman said today, it was a very productive day, and I know this is frustrating, but we want to keep
of course. I know there's a lot you can't say.
The subject as private as we can, partly because, by the way, as a result of today's testimony, the committee may very well call in additional people. And if we call in additional people, we don't necessarily want them knowing exactly what it was that Michael Cohen said. So when the chairman said it was a productive day, I think what he meant, and I think what is fair to say, is that we learned new things. Michael Cohen said today that he brought new documents. The chairman confirmed that. We saw new documents that pertained to when Michael Cohen told the committee the Trump Tower building had stopped being, the project had stopped. So we did see a lot of new information. As a result of that new information, we may very well call additional witnesses.
Do you have a sense of what the timetable of the investigation for the committee is? I mean, the plan, to wrap this up in a matter of months or weeks or longer?
Well, remember, we started when we regained the majority, when the Democrats regained the majority, we restarted the investigation, which then Chairman Nunes had ended prematurely. And we know it's prematurely because, of course, the special counsel, subsequent to the closing of our investigation, has charged any number of people. It's clear that we were lied to. And so what I will tell you, Anderson, is that we started with, let's find out more about the lies that were told to my committee. That's, of course, what we've done with Michael Cohen. And without betraying the details of what we learned today and last week, there is an awful lot more for us to do associated with the lies that Michael Cohen told the Congress. And you might fairly infer that that has to do with the possibility that somebody along the way was looking to assist or did assist in Michael Cohen's crime of lying to Congress.
So when we spoke with you last week, we just learned that the House Intelligence Committee was going to request Alan Weisselberg, the Trump Organization CFO, who's been there a very long time, to testify. Can you say what the status of that is right now? Has contact been made? Have you gotten any response from him?
I don't know that. What I do know, and we said this last week, is that it continues to be our intention to bring in Felix Sater. Felix Sater, of course, being the individual who worked in the Trump Organization's office, had a relationship with Michael Cohen and obviously with Donald Trump. I believe it is still the intention to have him in next week. I don't know if it's an open hearing. That was the original idea. But that remains the next step for this investigation in the House.
And on the subject of pardons, number one, did you talk about them with Michael Cohen? And number two, if you did, can you say if the issue of a pardon was first raised by Cohen's attorneys or the president's attorneys?
Yeah, Anderson, I don't want to get into that. I know that the press has been reporting a lot about that today. And, of course, Michael Cohen hinted in previous testimony that there might have been some issues there. Let me just leave it by saying that the question of whether there were pardons offered to Michael Cohen is a question that has been out there for a long time, and it is still very much out there.
And I just wanted to ask you about what we started this broadcast with. The New York Times obtaining 6 checks written from President Trump to Michael Cohen to pay off Stormy Daniels, doing it while in office, in the Oval Office, I assume. Do you think there is any legal or constitutional exposure there?
Well, of course there is. I mean, those checks are interesting because those checks and the fact that Donald Trump made a payment to reimburse Michael Cohen for paying off a porn star in order to avoid a story, I know Rudy Giuliani is really interested in the question of whether that was personal or political. I think anybody looking at that would say trying to stop a story that you had an affair with a porn star, something that would certainly be material to Americans' decisions on how they vote for president, not only is that a big deal in and of itself, but simply doing it is a violation of the law, and doing it from the White House. Remember, Bill Clinton was impeached in the mid-90s for lying about an affair, but Bill Clinton didn't, write hush money checks while he was in the White House. So, yes, of course, we're in a tough spot here because there is now very clear evidence that the president may have committed a serious crime while president of the United States.
And just lastly, I've been thinking about something that you said last week on the program after Cohen testified in front of your committee. You said the Republicans under your committee didn't do the sort of castigating of Cohen that we saw Republicans in the House Oversight Committee doing, which was an open hearing. I wonder, did that apply today? Did the treatment of Cohen apply to Devin Nunes as well?
Yeah. Again, without getting into the details of the hearing, of course, what happened these last 2 days with Michael Cohen behind closed doors could not have been more different than what you saw in front of the Oversight Committee with cameras running, Republicans bringing posters out. None of that happened. In fact, it was, fairly boring procedurally, in as much as question after question after question got asked. The Republicans participate. Again, I don't want to get into the details of what was said and done, but the Republicans, I think, are mainly, I think they understand they're in a little bit of a box because, as they did before the American people, saying, Michael Cohen, you have no credibility, you're a bad guy, you're a criminal and stuff. Well, sentence number 2 behind that is, this is a guy who worked for the president for 10 years and, oh, by the way, was finance chairman of the Republican Party. So that's